Would you bet on a fighter that had only a 5% chance of winning? Well, that's what most people are doing when they're setting goals. So, in this episode, we are diving into the 95% heavyweight, which is your subconscious mind, how to work with it, and how to get your subconscious mind and your conscious mind to play nicely together so that you actually achieve your goals this year. Hey there, I'm Kimberly Spencer, your subconscious success strategist, master mindset coach, and high performance business coach, best-selling author, TEDx speaker, and mom of three. My gosh, it boggles my mind. But all that I've achieved and all that I've achieved throughout my career as an entrepreneur for 17 years since I was 19 years old and four businesses in now has been through understanding, learning, and mastering the domain of the subconscious. This is the Crown Yourself podcast for the visionaries, the leaders, the high performers who desire to create a life from purpose and who want to build and strengthen their mindset for one of conscious leadership so that you make the income and the impact that you deserve. And in this episode, we are going to be answering your question about what is the subconscious mind? How do I work with it? And how can I actually have it work for me as the heavyweight? So if you're ready to once again dive in, hit the subscribe button, and you'll be notified every Monday and Thursday when a new episode goes live. So my foray into personal development didn't come through mindset work. In fact, what I found with a lot of mindset work is a lot of people teaching mindset is actually teaching it incorrectly. And why I say that is because your subconscious mind runs your body. You see, your subconscious mind, you're basically a walking subconscious mind from the age of 0 to 7. And that is called the imprint period in psychology when most 95%, it's now predicted. Research shows that 95% of your programming of how you operate and do life is set by the age of 7. That doesn't mean that you can't reprogram it. But sometimes when you have things that come into play that are belief systems, habits, all of that, but sometimes when you have negative things happen, those things are happening because it's your subconscious mind going, are you ready to heal this? Are you ready to work through this? And sometimes what I've seen having coached leaders now for 9 years in scaling their empires and creating holistic success is sometimes that little 7-year-old or 6-year-old that is purely subconscious comes out to run the show of your family, your relationships, your body, and your business and your money. Personally, I have an 8-year-old and a 4-year-old and a 9-month-old, and I wouldn't give any of them charge over any financial decisions whatsoever. But yet their belief systems, your belief systems that were formed at that imprint period may be the ones that are popping in to run the show. And we're going to show you in this episode how to work through them. So rule number 1 when it comes to your subconscious mind, guard your gates. Guard your gates. What you repeatedly say, what you repeatedly watch, what you repeatedly feel and emotionally believe becomes your OS, your operating system, your BS as well, your belief systems. So we want to guard your gates. This is why I no longer and will never watch another horror movie. I am still haunted. And yes, I probably need to go back and do some timeline therapy on some of these belief systems because horror movies, your subconscious mind also takes everything personally. When you are experiencing something scary like a horror movie, or when you're hearing something scary like you turn on the news or spend 5 seconds on social media scrolling on news sites, you're going to see, oh my God, you're being inundated with murder, literal snuff films, like horrific acts of violence, famine, starving children. And our minds and our bodies are not meant to intake this amount of emotional content. So we desensitize. So we want to guard our gates because your subconscious mind is the domain of the emotions. And we want to honor the domain of the emotions. And if it gets desensitized to not actually feeling the emotions, we get in trouble there. So guard your gates, guard what you repeatedly watch, what you consume, what you feel, and what you emotionally are constantly believing and the emotional story that you're telling yourself. Recently on one of the past podcasts, I think it was a few weeks ago, I shared a story about how I changed the emotional narrative about how I was facing my two boys. I love my boys. They're amazing. They're 8 and 4, and they're currently in that like age difference where there's a little bit of fighting. And it was like becoming a constant thing, a regular occurring pattern that I was like, okay, gosh, how do I deal with this? And so I noticed that my response as the parent started to come into play a lot with how they were doing this. So they were getting a response, a strong emotional reaction from mommy, from me going, again, like, really? We're fighting again? Like, and there was resentment. There was this eye roll. There was this, versus I intentionally shifted how I was emotionally behaving and what I was emotionally believing about my kids, changed that, and it changed their behavior. It changed how they showed up for each other. I instead shifted it to being like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited to see you, regardless of the scenario, regardless of the circumstance. I would wake up and instead of hearing them like start getting catty and start fighting, I'd be like, oh my gosh, hi guys. And I would pattern interrupt. In NLP, it's called a pattern interrupt when you interrupt the current emotional state and narrative that is happening. Number two, we always want to know that it manifests. The subconscious mind is the goal seeker. So it goes after the goals. It's the goal getter. Your conscious mind is the one you write all your New Year's resolutions down to and is like, oh, I want to do this. And my goal is this. And my goal is this. Your conscious mind is the goal setter. But if your subconscious mind is going, yeah, I don't believe you can do that, or that level of success, or that income level doesn't feel safe in my body, your subconscious mind is going to replay that story rather than your goal. And it's going to feel hard to go for your goal because your subconscious mind manifests through resonance, not hustle. So it doesn't respond to effort. It responds to emotional and vibrational alignment. Now, we've heard this said if you've been in the woo woo community, if you're like more scientifically minded, like my husband is, like, let's break it down the science. There are two laws of the universe called the law of vibration and the law of correspondence. They are hermetic principles. Now, vibration, that's also known as Wi Fi. That is vibrations flowing through the air, energetic vibrations that are currently allowing you to watch this video or listen to this podcast. The law of vibration, everything is vibrating and everything has a specific vibration. Dr. David Hawkins created the map of consciousness and measured the actual vibration of different emotions. Shame is the lowest, joy, peace is the highest. Joy, peace, love, those are the higher vibrations. Shame, anger, guilt, fear, hurt, all of those are emotions and they actually have a resonance where they don't vibrate. Like you want a faster vibration, they're vibrating super slow. So your subconscious mind attracts the realities that mirror your emotional tone. So if you're going into a sales conversation with the shame of like, I'm no good, I suck at sales, I'm not good at business, and you're going in with that conversation, you're probably not going to get the sale. Versus if you go in with a emotional vibration of courage of like, I'm choosing to be brave in this moment. I'm choosing to try. I'm choosing to give it a go. Those shift. Courage is the vibrational attunement that actually changes the game into higher vibrational states. So if you want to be more magnetic, and meaning you're attracting your goals to you to birth them through you, if you want to be more magnetic, you got to be more courageous. So who must you become to hold what you desire? And I bet you already know that the courage vibration, I think it's about 200 or 250 hertz. When you are vibrating in a vibration of courage, it actually is empowering and inspiring to others. And when I work with my clients and we're working through courage and the collective, what I tell them is to know how to be courageous and what you need to do, you need to look at what you're avoiding doing. So one of our members brought a problem to me and to the group and was saying, I've chat GPT'd this. I've tried to use chat GPT as my psychiatrist or coach. It's not giving me an answer. Could we work together just through this problem? And she wanted to know whether she should double down on the two businesses that she already owns and operates, or go for this third other business and start creating that as well right now. With the assessment, just as we dove into it and dug deeper, her subconscious mind and her intuition was actually saying, stick with the two that you got. And her ego, it was her desire, her impulsiveness, not intuition, was saying, go for the shiny object, next best thing. And that actually would stretch her attention even more so than it was already stretched. And I told her, I said, you probably already know what the answer is to what you're seeking. You're just avoiding the answer because you don't like it. And when she realized that, she was avoiding actually taking a few extra steps that she knew she needed to take that would take about 3 to 6 months of implementing better systems, better structure into her current business, is better systems and better structure into her current businesses before stepping forth and creating a third one. And that is where the vibration of courage actually had to come into play. Because a lot of people would think, oh, yeah, it would be courageous to go off there and start that. Is it courageous or is it impulsive? And so we want to be aware of that. The third thing that you need to know about your subconscious mind is that it seeks safety above all. And safety does not necessarily mean what you would constitute as safe. It seeks safety in terms of the familiar. This is why I think it's 78% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck, no matter how much money you are making. That's huge because a lot of people think, I'll just make more, earn my way out of paycheck to paycheck. But no, they end up manifesting more expenses. They keep on buying shit. So even toxic patterns that aren't good for you, they will feel safe. When I was bulimic, it felt safe to throw up and purge my food. It was something that was familiar. It didn't feel safe to have food nourish me. When I was in what I call money bulimia, it didn't feel safe to have heap loads of cash in my checking account. It didn't feel safe to have that. So what would happen would be I would get a large client payment because a lot of my one-on-one coaching is high ticket. So I would get a large client payment, like 15, sometimes $60,000 in, and suddenly I would manifest bills. I would suddenly start in other initiatives rather than letting that cash flow just be there and just nourish the business. So this is where on a soul level, you start unconsciously sabotaging anything that threatens your identity. So yes, even money, even love, even health, because it seeks the familiar. And so in order to work with it, you have to show that the growth is safe and cannot coerce the subconscious mind. It in fact doesn't respond well to coercion. So that's why if you like try to beat it into submission or you start a hardcore diet and you're like, I'm going to get really, really fit, then your subconscious mind goes, "Ah, okay." And then it rebels. And then you do the diet and then you gain more back. The same is true with financial bulimia. So instead you get $15,000 of revenue coming in, but then suddenly you so used to that negative bank balance that you have $16,000 of expenses go out. Suddenly, somehow you decided to do like software came due or bills came due or taxes. And what happens is that goes back to the safety piece. So we have to teach the nervous system that growth can be safe and you got to do it lovingly, like kind of like you do to your like with your kids is you nurture them. You do it secret, like you let them know that like, hey, there's positive choices on the other side. I like to say speak to the subconscious mind like a lover. Like, hey baby, I got you. I got you. We're going to go on this journey. We're going to do this thing. We're going to go for this goal. I know it feels a little scary. And you can do this by training your body, right? Like subconscious mind hack right there. Why? And I don't mean training it through vigorous exercise, because what that does is it kicks in your sympathetic nervous system. You want to activate the parasympathetic nervous system. The parasympathetic nervous system is the rest and digest. So when you're in a space of safety, you are in a space of rest and digest. Even though it may be digesting a bunch of crap, it's used to digesting it and it feels rested in it. So instead, you just slowly nurture that subconscious mind. You're like, we're going to stretch. We're going to do this and we're going to train the physiology. And you can do this just by breath, by just breathing deeper, breathing deeper. So when you start to feel those impulse buys or that desire to spend suddenly after you've received a chunk of cash for your business, or you feel that desire to like just go out there and you're like, oh, I've lost 10 pounds. I now deserve an ice cream gigantic sundae that could feed 4 people. And I say that only because I live in Texas where the portions are enormous. And that experience of like, oh, I deserve this because I did this. And then you end up with like 10 extra pounds on top of what you already lost because then it just spirals. That's because you have not treated your unconscious mind to safety and to slowly engaging and building the trust between your conscious mind and your subconscious mind and your higher conscious mind that's sending those messages that's saying, go here, do this, lean into this, don't spend there. You don't really need that ice cream. Delay that gratification. Those patterns of discipline that are not masochistic, that are actually nurturing, that are small patterns that are slow and steady, like the tortoise versus the hare, those actually nurture your subconscious mind. The next belief is your subconscious mind is governed by the law of cause and effect. And you may have heard this law before. It's called the law of karma or cause and effect. And in this metaphysical mirror, your business, your body, your bank account, your relationships, they all reflect your subconscious state. And so when you put yourself 100% at cause for your life, every inner cause, every thought, every emotion, every belief system produces an outer effect. I have a very simple belief system that I live by that has radically changed my life in the past 5 years. And it is this: that which is conscious manifests happily, that which is unconscious manifests unhappily. And only when something unconscious and unhappy is showing up, then that means, oh, that's something I get to shift within myself. And when I shift it within myself, it shifts my environment externally. So when you shift it inside, it allows you to change the circumstances, the people, the perspectives. Even though you can't actually change somebody else, you can change your perspective of how you are viewing and relating in that relationship. And when you can change that, you change the relationship. So back to the example of me with the fighting with my boys. And I was approaching it from this thought, emotion, belief of being disappointed. The belief was I was disappointed in their behavior. The thought was, oh my God, not again. The emotion was frustration and a little bit of resentment of like, really? We're doing this again? And so that produced a vicious circle and an outer effect of the same behavior from them showing up again and again until I broke the pattern and I looked at how am I causing this? Well, my cause was in my response to how I showed up in that relationship to work through that problem with them. I came in with an energy of frustration and resentment. I came in with a belief system of like being disappointed instead of being like, they're 8, they're 4. Like we're learning, we're in a learning process. So there was a different belief system. So when I shifted the belief to like, they just need some more repetition that's positive and forward facing rather than I'm disappointed that they haven't gotten this yet. Different belief, different thought pattern, change the result. And then I looked at what else am I causing in this relationship for creating this circumstance? And I said, okay, well, it's also my thoughts, it's my emotion. So my emotion that I was approaching the relationship with, that I was approaching dealing with the problem with, was an emotion of frustration and a little bit of resentment rather than an approach of like, wow, I get to be a parent. I get to guide them through this moment so that we work together and become more conscious together. And it was in that space that then when I shifted my emotions, my beliefs, and my thoughts, that my consciousness shifted so that I had more playfulness. So instead of the subconscious program that was being built that came from deep rooted belief systems that I had from childhood about fears of being a disappointment and all that, when I was able to look at like, oh, that's my own inner child, my 6-year-old who fears she's a disappointment showing up. And that's how I'm dealing with the problem is I'm meeting my 8 and 4-year-old with my inner 6-year-old to try to handle the problem. And I'm frustrated that I'm not perfect at solving this. Oh, okay. That's where that's initiating from. Great. I get to heal that as the 38, I forget how, 37, 38-year-old woman that I am today. And I get to heal that and say, hey, little kiddo that you are, that you're amazing. Let's solve this problem together. Let's look at it from a different perspective. Let's shake the frame of the perspective and let's nurture and show the love and compassion that you wish you had had back then. And in approaching and thus when I healed that within myself, because that was the unconscious thing, that was the unconscious projection that was showing up. When I got to heal that within myself, it healed how I approached the problem in the relationship. And instead, how I approached the problem was approaching it with more humor, with fun with doing what we call a redo, where we just did it like instead of like going through, I'm like, wait, we're gonna rewind, and then we make it funny. We are like rewind it. You have to watch the YouTube video to watch my example of a robot in rewind. I would make it fun and playful rather than having it be this like, you did this again sort of response. The next thing about your subconscious mind that you need to know is it is easily distracted by feeling. Your subconscious mind, it's the domain of emotions. Feelings are not emotions, but feelings can become emotions. So feeling is a sensory awareness. It is a biological response that we have. A lot of times we bottle up that biological response, whether it's feeling uninhibited joy or it's feeling deep sadness in a moment. And if we bottle it up and we repress it and we suppress it, then it builds up what is a negative emotion rather than allowing for us to actually feel the feeling but do the thing anyway. And that's why so many people say feel the feeling but do the thing anyway that you need to do. Or my favorite is Layla Hormozi's Fuck Your Mood, Follow the Plan. Look at what you're feeling, acknowledge what you're feeling. We're not going to deny or repress or say I'm fine when I'm not, but we're going to acknowledge the feeling. We're going to see that it's there, just like you do with like when my kid comes in and interrupts a podcast interview or a coaching session, which very rarely happens because we are talking more about boundaries, but I am very transparent. I have an 8-year-old and a 4-year-old. Someone's may interrupt me. And when someone does, all they're wanting is like a moment of presence. And I notice it. I say, hey, bud, this is what's happening. And this is okay. This is how I'm feeling. Okay. This is what you need. Okay. I'll be with you in 20 minutes. And we let them know. The same is true with your subconscious mind because your subconscious mind is like a toddler. And when you talk to it like a toddler, like I was on a call the other week and I was just having a tender week. Maybe it was postpartum. I don't know what there was a lot of things on my plate that I was working through both in the business and personally. And I was like, okay, I'm feeling some things. And I hopped on a call and I was asked, hey, how are you today? And I didn't respond with like, I'm fine. I'm fine. We're going to mask it. We're going to hide it. We're going to suppress it. We're going to put on that mask of perfection. No, I said, actually, I'm feeling a bit tender today. And just letting you know, just being vulnerable and open with that. And the colleague that I was having a meeting with, she was like, do you need me to sit with you for that for just a minute? And I was like, yeah, let's see. Can we just take 30 seconds to just like take a deep breath? And we did that together. And I just felt the feeling. And then I acknowledged the feeling. And I said, I will process you fully in 30 minutes when I have space, but not on this call. So I let it be noticed. But it's when we let it be noticed and then we indulge in it. And then it's distracted by those 5 senses of what we see, what we smell, what we taste, what we touch. It's like when if you are working on a conscious goal to lose weight and suddenly you walk into the kitchen and I mean, my kitchen always smells phenomenal because I'm not in it because that's my husband's space. And I'm like, ooh, it smells like bread. It smells like homemade baked bread or it smells like banana muffins. And it's like, oh my gosh. And so there's those senses and it's the reminder of like, what is your subconscious mind needing? And it can be distracted easily by those feelings if you're not constantly acknowledging, oh, yeah, I feel that. I want to go for that. And it's those impulses. It can be very impulsive versus because it wants to go back to what is familiar. So when you're trying to make change, it can be impulsive with the change around the sensory things that happen. You just let it be. You acknowledge the feeling, you acknowledge the impulse, and then you keep going and you tap in to that higher self. This is where future pacing, visualizations, and NLP anchoring really comes into play. So where you install beliefs. That's why I have 2 Post-its on my ring light right now. And that's pretty much all that I don't like a ton of Post-its, but I have Layla Hormozi's Fuck Your Mood, Follow the Plan. And the secret to success is give a shit about people. And those 2, I took a deep breath today because the kids and juggling and all the things, there was a lot happening to get the kids out the door so that I could like hit record. And I was like, okay, took a deep breath, felt the feelings coming up. And I was like, oh, there's so much in me that like just could go take a nap right now. And I was like, no, I'm going to follow the plan. I'm going to acknowledge the feeling and I'm going to focus instead of on myself on service. And from that shifting of focus, that allowed myself that reminder, but it was a gentle reminder. It wasn't like, you're not going to feel this right now. It was like, we are going to acknowledge what's real and true for us right in this moment and then move forward. Because your subconscious mind, it will heal in stillness, in story, in meditation, and in deep presence. Hypnosis also helps too. But sleep is also where the subconscious mind goes to repair. That's why I like to ask a question of my subconscious mind before it goes into a sleep state so that I can solve and visualize and create in the imagination, which is this magical space that the subconscious mind can play in. But it can also imagine a lot of really terrible things too. So we want to look at the stories that we're telling ourselves about the experience. And I'm telling you, the story that's going on in my mind is like, "Oh, wow, I'm so proud of you for showing up. I'm so proud of you. I know this was hard." It's a story of acknowledgement. It's a story of celebration. It's a story of respect and just having reverence for that moment. When you start telling yourself, I didn't used to always talk to myself that way. I used to actually be quite nasty with myself. But when you start to tell yourself new stories and like honor the progress of who you're becoming, not necessarily just achieving the goal, but honor the process and the progress of how far you're coming with what you're doing and what you're creating, what you're building, and you leverage metaphor and deep presence and story and visualization to say, like, I know where this is taking me. I'm so proud of you for showing up today. This is so amazing. Thank you so much for honoring your gifts. Thank you so much for leaning into your purpose. Like, you're doing amazing. When you change that narrative dialogue that's going on constantly in the back of your mind, you're going to see a lot faster progress. And lastly, the most important thing, your subconscious mind is like a child. So it doesn't choose what to believe. It models what you guide it to believe. It models what you do. So habits, your actions that you take, if you take avoidant actions, if there's a whole list of things that you're avoiding doing and you haven't actually dealt with those, it's gonna no. Oh, okay. She doesn't really want to go for that goal. She says she wants it, but she's avoiding the actual thing that's hard. Okay. She doesn't really want that. It is like a cosmic child. It follows instructions given with emotion and repetition. So in order to work with it, you got to give it direction. You got to give it a mission, and you have to speak to her lovingly like a child, like you would to your inner child, and say, "Wow, I'm so proud of you. Wow, you're doing great. I see how challenging that was and you overcame it. That was so brave of you." Like, get off that next sales call and really be kind to your subconscious mind of like, "Wow, I'm so proud of myself. I raised my prices on that call, and yeah, he didn't say yes, but you know what? I'm so proud that I was able to stand in that authority and just say those words." Like, that's a really big deal. And so you honor those processes and those little steps that you make throughout the day. And that is how you shift the unconscious mind. You shift the subconscious goal getting into what it is that you actually want to achieve, and all those New Year's resolutions that you are writing down right now for what you want to achieve in 2026 and beyond. So if you love this episode, if you're like, "Oh my gosh, this served me. I want more of this. I want to be in the space where I can take courageous action on a regular basis," then jump into my coaching membership, The Collective. You get group coaching for the whole year to where you are getting coached on your mindset, your skill set, your systems, your branding, your marketing, your sales, your vision, and you're building holistic success and legacy into your business while being supported by a community of amazing leaders, visionaries, best-selling authors, 6 and 7 figure entrepreneurs who are creative and disciplined and taking the courageous action on a regular basis and being supported in a community of courage. That is a space to show up. That is a space to lock in every week, week after week, month after month, so that you build and strengthen that courage muscle that actually builds that vibration, raises your vibration into one who's taking the aligned next best steps of action that actually move the needle here on the physical plane. And you are aligning your conscious goals with your subconscious reality, shifting the subconscious stories to align with your greater, higher consciousness and greater purpose on this planet. The Collective is the place. Jump in. It's available and open now. Hit the button down below. And if you love this episode, make sure you're subscribed so that you don't miss an episode. We drop them every Monday and every Thursday. So I look forward to seeing you on the next one. As always, my fellow sovereigns, own your throne, mind your business, because your reign is now.